The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. All the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them a parable. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So the father divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country, and there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. The young man would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? But here am I, dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field. And when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked him what was going on. The slave replied, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he got him back safe and sound.' And then the elder son became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat, so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' And then the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found. The Gospel of the Lord. One of the tensions of the early church was how many Gospels should be preserved. There were some who felt that only one should be chosen. Others who felt that if more than one was chosen, they should be blended together and only give one. And still others, the ones who won out, felt that there should be 4 Gospels which would be accepted by the church. And hence we have them: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And a striking thing about the 4 Gospels is they don't always totally agree with each other. And the early church fathers who made these decisions were neither blind nor stupid. They knew that, and yet felt that each one of them offered something to the church. Each one of them with their particular concerns, even though they didn't always agree in smaller details, had something that should be preserved. This year we're reading the Gospel according to Luke. Luke himself never met Jesus in the flesh. He learned about Jesus by listening to others, by reading material about Jesus. And after a long process, he himself put together his gospel. And there were some things about Luke's gospel which are really striking. One I mentioned several weeks ago: how struck he was with any mention he could make about Jesus praying. More than any other of the Gospels, he refers to Jesus going off and praying. Another thing is his great interest in women, and we read that constantly in the Gospel. Another thing is his great interest in those who, for whatever reason, found themselves on the outskirts. And finally, another thing was his great interest in the mercy that Jesus showed, again, particularly to those who were lost or in any way on the outside. We see this in today's chapter, chapter 15. It's a very beautiful chapter. It's got 3 different parables of Jesus. And one of the striking things about it, we don't see those parables anywhere else. They've only been preserved for us by Luke. And the context in which he gives them to us is important. The first 3 verses of today's reading: all the tax collectors and the sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus. That's one side. On the other side, the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling. This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them. And so Jesus told a parable. In fact, we've shortened it, and even at that, it's rather a lengthy gospel. Jesus actually told 3 parables in this chapter, all of them only preserved by St. Luke, and all of them similar. They were a story about something that was lost and then found. The first one was a man with 100 sheep. One gets lost. What does he do? He leaves 99 behind. He searches all over until he finds the lost one, and then he brings it back rejoicing. The second one is about a woman with 10 coins. She loses one. Well, that's 10% of her portfolio. And she searches the house everywhere. She sweeps. Where's my coin? And when she finally finds it, she calls her neighbors together. Rejoice, I found the coin that I had lost. And then the third one I've just read. It's about a father who lost one of his 2 sons. And in a certain sense, kind of lost both of his sons. One of them, more dramatically, takes his share of what would have come to him upon his father's death and goes and wastes it all. And when he's starving, he comes to his senses and seeks to come back not as a son anymore, but as a servant and a worker on his father's property. But his father's been watching for him. From a distance, he sees him. And when the son starts to give his rehearsed line, the father doesn't let him finish. Go put a proper cloak on him. Put sandals on his feet. Only a worker goes barefoot, not the son of the household. And put a ring on his finger. With that ring, a signet ring. It was like a PID for your bank account card. He could enact business in the name of his father and of the family. And kill the fatted calf so that we can rejoice. Because my son who was lost is found. He was dead, and he has come back to life. And then there's the second son, the hard-working one, the guy who never goes off wasting money on prostitutes or anything else, but who maybe is a little bit self-righteous about that. And when he comes in and hears the story, instead of being excited like his father is, he is angry, and he refuses to go inside. So what does the father do? For a second time in the parable, the father goes out and he pleads with his older son. Your brother was dead. He's back to life. He was lost. Now he's found. Come, we have to rejoice. Come and join in this celebration. And the beautiful thing, Luke has preserved these three parables, and we hear them today on this fourth Sunday of Lent, a reminder of the Father who, when scribes or Pharisees or anyone else is grumbling, would have us think about the man who left 99 behind to search for the one lost sheep, and the woman who put out everything she could to find her lost coin, and the Father who did everything he could to welcome and restore not only one, but both of his sons who in different ways were lost.